Welcome back to Ascend Legal 101. I'm Ramona, and today I'm joined by Lorenzo Oss-Cech, who's a partner with the law firm of Hutchison Oss-Cech Marlatt. Good morning, Lorenzo.
Good morning, Ramona.
Great to
How are
see
you?
you. I'm great, thank you. So just as a bit of a recap, we did a video together when no-fault insurance was just coming into place in British Columbia. And somewhere, one of these spots, I will link that video so people can refer to that other video. So there's more of a background and there's more of your background in that video. And today's conversation is about recent developments. And I'm wondering if you can walk me through the couple of really significant recent developments in the ICBC no-fault insurance saga.
Well, as you know, obviously, no fault came in as of May of 2021. And after that, lawsuits for car crashes were removed from the ability for people that were involved to sue to get compensation. Basically went to a scheme similar to WorkSafe, so it's a workers' compensation type of scheme. They've increased the Part 7 benefits to $700,000, but even that has been, I know a lot of people that have struggled with that, in receiving proper compensation, proper treatment. The latest development, I don't know if you know, but there was a cap that was placed on disbursements for the old files, the files that were under the regime prior to no fault, that are still in the cabinet. I would imagine there's at least 5 to 6 years worth of work for ICBC and lawyers to deal with all those old files. But the government, in their wisdom, decided that they wanted to put a cap on disbursements that you could spend on those files. And the cap was 6% of the actual award. So for a $100,000 file, you were only able to spend $6,000, which you know that these days won't even get you one extra report. Fortunately, that's been struck down, and we're now able to spend proper money to get proper reports for people. So pretty much those are the main developments.
So can I ask you a question about that cap? Because I've spoken to people I know who work at ICBC and also Defense Counsel, and they say they haven't had any direction from ICBC about that. And the Defense Counsel have said it doesn't really change how they're, it hasn't changed anything about the files they were working with, because they were always trying to get some kind of exemption. What are you seeing? Like, have you noticed a shift?
Well, obviously, since it's been struck down, there's an obvious shift, because they can't make that point. My experience has been that it's very much dependent on counsel, defense counsel, and adjusters. There are some adjusters that are very militant about it, and similarly some counsel that are very militant about it, and so it creates big issues, because the cap had come in after many of the files already matured, and we had already spent the money, and it was retroactive. So that was a big issue for clients, when you would tell them, look, we spent $20,000 or $25,000 on expert reports, but your file is only worth $200, and you're only going to get half of that back. So there was issues for sure, and there have been issues with some of my files and some of my clients. What I've done is I try to circumvent all of that by tying the settlement to a comprehensive settlement. So I would make all-in offers, so all-inclusive offers, so that there wouldn't be any haggling over cost of disbursements, and I would factor that in my settlement.
So I'm just quickly looking at my notes here so I can be asking this question correctly. Now, there's another new development, and that is that Timothy Schober and the Trial Lawyers Association of BC have filed a claim in the BC Supreme Court. And for all of our viewers and our listeners, I will make sure that there is a link to that notice of civil claim in the notes so that you can link to that and read the actual claim itself. But he was left paralyzed as a result of an accident. And he's asserting that his right to be properly compensated for losses has been taken away, and the right to sue negligent drivers has been taken away by this system, and that it's unconstitutional. It violates Section 15 of the Charter. Can you, I mean, that's sort of my bare bones quick overview. Can you talk me through that a little bit? Help me to understand what the significance of this claim is.
Well, first of all, I know Tim. I don't know him well. I know him as a colleague. He was a very good solicitor for many, many years. And I was obviously shocked to hear about his predicament and his accident. Terrible, terrible news. My understanding is that, yeah, he's not being compensated properly. He's not being looked after properly. That there's a shortfall in his care, day-to-day care. And he's decided to take a run at the no-fault system. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, although I've dabbled in it from different perspective. I helped a lawyer out of Calgary do a constitutional case for the vaccine mandates, but it's a completely different animal. In terms of the lawsuit, I haven't delved into it deeply. I know about it. I've read the claim. My sense is that it's not going to be successful. And the reason for that is no fault has been around in Canada and many other provinces. And I think the government has the right to legislate that and deal with that in the manner that they did. I think the initial attempt to reduce claims when they brought in the minor injury cap, that was nightmarish. The people that were caught in that 2-year span from April of 2019 till May of 2021 were in complete limbo because the legislation was incomprehensible at best and completely asinine at worst. And I don't know if we spoke about this last, but we have, fairly good, intelligent people working here. And we did a very deep dive on that legislation, and you can't make heads or tail as to what is a minor injury and what it's not. And then, of course, the reference to the CRT to determine what is a minor injury and what is not, with people that are not trained in that area to make those decisions was insanity. And I apologize for the tangent, but I think that the constitutional argument is going to fail ultimately. From a selfish standpoint, I wish it's successful because I would like to see a no fault eradicated because I think it just harms people in general, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. That's really interesting. Do you think it will fail because this sort of reinforces or perpetuates that disadvantage of disabled people and people who are disabled by motor vehicle accidents specifically? I would think that there's a whole bunch of groups that, could potentially make this a bigger case than we think it is right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but I agree. It could be a much bigger case, but at the end of the day, if I understand the lawsuit correctly, is that the argument is that this group of people is being treated differently, and I don't think that's the case. I think everybody that's involved in a motor vehicle accident is treated the same. They can't sue. End of story. There's no fault, and you have the scheme that the government has laid out. It's terrible. It's pardon the expression, but you know, it's a meat chart basically. But I think our recourse is not through the courts, because I don't think that the Constitution is going to protect this. I think our recourse is through voting and getting rid of governments that we don't agree with, and bringing in governments that are more on the side of the people.
Right.
And I don't particularly think this government is. They've done a lot of things that have harmed British Columbians in general.
Part, you know, as a taxpayer, I'm like, oh, good, they're protecting the taxpayers generally, and that $150 check or whatever it is that, you know, every year. Super. But on the other side, you know, I do, you know, as you and I discussed last time, I'm really concerned about our clients going forward. You know, they're just.
I'm concerned of people. Anybody that drives a car should be concerned about this. But as you know, the lawyers and the Trial Lawyers Association were screaming from the rooftops when this was proposed, and nobody listened. You know, as my dear old friend Michael O'Byrne used to say, he was a judge on the Queen's Bench of Alberta for 33 years, and he said people get the government that they deserve.
Right.
And this is what we have.
Right. So if I ask you to spitball a little bit, or sort of look in your crystal ball, if this were to, because the CRT system is, I guess, unconstitutional in this recent decision.
Ramona, are you talking about the decision that Justice Hutchison wrote, that held that the CRT's exclusive jurisdiction was constitutional?
Exactly. I apologize.
It's been overturned by the Court of Appeal.
Right. So if that's been overturned by the Court of Appeal and this charter challenge goes ahead, do you think that this is one of those ones that it's going to be a fight tooth and nail? Because I guess that potentially, if this system in British Columbia is found to be unconstitutional, that would then affect many provinces.
Correct. Because if no fault is deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of Canada, which is going to have to be the Supreme Court of Canada that dictates that, obviously, then yeah, many other provinces are in peril of their system being struck down. But I just don't see it.
Right.
I don't see that happening.
Right.
I see the Court of Appeal decision being reversed, that the CRT can have exclusive jurisdiction to determine what is a minor injury or not. I think Justice Hutchison correctly decided that case, that usurped the powers of the courts under Section 96. I think that it was his argument or his decision, and I think that's correctly decided. I think that the Court of Appeal incorrectly decided that case. But I don't wear the robes, so I don't make those decisions.
Right, right. Well, do you have anything else that I should know about this? I know our last conversation about this sparked so much additional conversation, and we heard from people sort of across Canada telling us about their experience with no-fault systems in their provinces, and also British Columbia. And how at the beginning people thought it was a good idea, and everybody got their check in the mail, and until they had an accident. And just like Mr. Schober, we've heard from people who were on bikes who got hit by cars, and now it's game over. So is there anything that I haven't asked you that you feel is important that the people that we're having this conversation with can take with them?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's, in the grander scheme of things, and this is my personal view, not anything else, that government should get out of insurance business. They should open it up. They should have competition. There are other places, Alberta, for example, where they pay a lot less for insurance because it's opened up to different insurance companies. And they have a minor injury cap, which I think is pretty well managed. But people like Mr. Schober and people that are severely injured have the ability to be compensated properly under that system. You know, I've been in this province for 30 years, and my sense of ICBC is that, number one, it's not the dumpster fire that we've been told. They make money. They've made money pretty much every year, but that money is taken out of the corporations and, you know, similarly to BC Hydro, and put into general revenue. And so it doesn't truly reflect what the state of the Crown Corporation. And so British Columbians have been lied to about it. And the fact that 6 months after no fault came in, and the government is telling people that the savings are huge now because the greedy lawyers are not getting the piece and all of that. It's absolute crap, because 6 months of no fault makes no difference, because you're still dealing with 10 years of accidents that were in the old system that were still in the hopper and still dealing with that. And it wouldn't have reflected any savings or any change in their bottom line. So we've been sold a bag of goods that is incorrect at best.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I'm keeping close watch on this, and just because it's just so interesting. You know, it's one of those sort of, I remember in the 90s, you know, when they suggested no fault insurance and everybody went crazy, and then the government backed down. And it's just interesting to me that this has come around again. So we'll see how it plays out, and we'll see how, I guess, our government deals with this moving forward, and the courts.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think the courts are going to strike this down as unconstitutional. I think it's the voters that they're going to have to deal with it, and either, you know, secure a new government with a different agenda that is more akin to what people need in this area, and we'll see.
Great. We will see. Thank you very much for your time today, Lorenzo.
Thank you, Ramona. Always a pleasure.